What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the ZigZag. My name is Corbin, and thank you for joining me here today. On today's episode, I'm standing up because I don't have a chair, and I'm back home, and the setup is a little bit scuffed at the moment. It's a little bit far away. My computer is, so I'm really going to try to focus in and read it, but I don't really have a good setup to do this, if I'm being so honest. So we're kind of just going to thug it out and see if it works, but the background looks pretty boring. There's no light. My light might even be too bright for me standing right here. I might even sit here. I might even lower it because I can do that. Look at this. Look at this. Look how cool this is. If you're watching, of course. If you're listening, I also appreciate you, but see, probably makes no difference. But this week in wrestling has been absolutely crazy. So what I want you guys to do, make sure you're following all my socials, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube over at the ZigZag 06. You can follow all of our content there. That's where you can see all of my stuff. You're going to have a lot of fun on probably the most opinionated podcast on the planet in the world of wrestling. So I appreciate you, and let's just go ahead and hop right in with NXT from last night. NXT has been absolutely cooking. The storylines they've been putting together in the main event scene with Ethan Page, with Ricky Saints, and with Joe Hendry have been electric. In my opinion, the way they are setting this up at the moment, where it's like Ricky and Ethan are friends, but at the same time, they are competing for the same belt, and they're both heels. It's giving me this Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho vibe from back in oh gosh, I don't even know what that was. 2018. It was back whenever Chris Jericho had the list, and everybody's favorite gimmick, if we're being honest. But Kevin Owens always being there, being like, "Yeah, you're my best friend, Chris Jericho. You're my best friend." That's we all loved that, and they're kind of doing it with this feud between Ricky and Joe Hendry and Ethan Page. I like where they're going with it. And then of course, now you have Tony D'Angelo getting involved as well, spearing and choke slamming all of the competitors in the ring last night. What a way to kick off NXT. The women's title, on the other hand, the women's NXT title match was absolutely crazy. Jacy Jayne is having a legendary run as the champ, and I want you guys to think about this. Jacy Jayne just randomly won the championship from Stephanie Vaquer. I didn't see it coming at all whenever she won, and I didn't even know who Jacy Jayne was. She's kind of in my eyes, I was just oh, who's this random? And people were like, oh, this is the upset of NXT history. This girl never should have won. And they were saying this and that. Proved all the haters wrong. She's held this title almost, oh my gosh, probably 8-9 months now to this point. She dropped it to Tatum Paxley for 2 weeks and instantly got it back, which we're going to be talking about some Tatum here in a little bit. But I just think her reign and the work that she's doing at the moment is kind of being overshadowed by the North American Championship and the feud with Zarya and Sol, which now they're integrating that into, the storyline with Jacy Jayne. And I do eventually think Jacy's going to lose it. But whenever she loses it, I don't know where she goes. She's definitely main roster ready, but I don't know if they want to throw her up there quite yet, but I could totally see it happening. She's a really good heel. Great women's heel. She's got an awesome moveset. I actually used to hate her finisher. I hate any sort of oh, this is just a clothesline, but it's harder. I think that's stupid, but her rolling encore finisher with the forearm to the face after the spin is a pretty sick finisher, in my opinion. Los Americanos was down on NXT this week, and they faced off against the Vanity Project. And I'm going to be honest, this match was randomly kind of thrown together, and I was well, this is going to be a weird combination because you got heels in Los Americanos versus heels in the Vanity Project. Didn't really know how I was going to go over with the fans. The Americanos comes out, and that place erupts. So this is what I'm getting at. Los Americanos plus El Grande. He's in there too. So you got Ryan Bravo and the new El Grande, the real El Grande, in my opinion. They are babyface on NXT and AAA, but are heels on Raw. We as fans need to lock in and just start cheering for them. In my opinion, I would. I wouldn't be booing them at all because I think they are hilarious. I think they are absolutely fantastic. So it's like maybe we just give them more appreciation on Raw. I don't know. Maybe the fans over on NXT and AAA have a little bit more of a brain than the people over on Raw. But it was cool to see them come out, and they definitely get cheered for sure. But Los Americanos ends up picking up the win with a little bit of tomfoolery, which was expected if they were going up against the Vanity Project. You know, those three are always looking for a way to cheat and win, and so does Los Americanos. And, you know, they put the titanium plate in the mask, and they end up picking up the win. And honestly, really cool fashion. They, like, you know, had like a triple tag, ended up doing like a little like tag team finishing move, followed by El Grande picking up the pin. So that was super cool. I just thought it was crazy that they came out to a bunch of cheering on NXT. I was kind of expecting quite the opposite there. Tatum Paxley retains her championship in a fire cage match against Izzy Dame. And then she is attacked by Blake Monroe, who comes out of a like hole in the ground. I thought that was really cool. But the match itself, I was expecting a lot because I like Tatum, I like Izzy. I think they can both go. I think they're actually both main roster ready, which people might say is a little early for them both, or especially Izzy, but I don't think so personally. So it was cool to see them kind of just go at it, and they had a really spectacular match. And I mean, I don't even know what to say. I like Tatum. She's integrating the rolling thunder kick, which if you guys don't know what it is, that's a move they use in UFC. Most notably, Justin Gaethje is the one who uses it, the rolling thunder kick compilation, but you can use it in UFC 5, the video game, which is where I know it from, and then I got to see Justin Gaethje do it in not his most recent fight, but the fight before that, and it looks sick. And she's doing that, and she was able to do that rolling thunder kick into the chair, which inevitably let her hit the cemetery drive and pick up the win, which was awesome. I don't fully understand why Blake Monroe is being thrown into the North American feud again. Hopefully, like, I don't want to say this like negatively, but I just hope she's another person that's just getting fed to Tatum. I hope like Blake isn't there to take the championship away from her, because I think you can have a really cool babyface run with Tatum as the champion. That's just me, though. That's just me. Might sound a little bit crazy, but I kind of wanted Blake to go to the main roster, if I'm being super honest with you. But alas, we are here. So we're going to move on. We're going to move on to SmackDown. At this moment in time, can we please end the Wyatt 6 versus MFT feud? I am dying over here. Can we please end it? It's actually so obnoxious. We've been doing the same feud and same stuff for like literally 6 months. Actually, it's maybe even longer. Maybe even longer than 6 months, which in my opinion is just a little bit unnecessary. It's unnecessary for a feud to go on for 6 months. Now, I understand it sometimes, but there's no crowd reaction here. We're not getting anything for the crowd. It's not like the MFTs come out and people are like, oh, they suck, and they just start booing like crazy. It's not like the MFTs comes out and everybody's like freaks out. They get like the lights and they, you know, shine the lights, which is awesome. But at the same time, it's like, who cares? I don't understand why they think, oh, well, we're going to make them fight over this lantern, and that's why people are really going to love it. No one cares about no stupid lantern. What we should do is we should end the feud, and I hate to say this, some of y'all gotta go, which might be really controversial, or you gotta go into a different storyline, or you gotta do something, because As I see it, there are people on the MFT, there are people on the Wyatt Six that are just taking up slots for other people, other younger talent, and I would much rather see younger talent like an Ethan Page get a spot on SmackDown's roster or things of that nature. And I feel like the roster is getting so loaded. And I mean, on top of that, we are coming up on like the worst day in all of professional wrestling. We are getting to where people are going to start to get cut and released, which sucks every year. There's always a notable name. Last year, the worst, in my opinion, was Dakota Kai. I was a big fan of hers, and she was let go. Luckily, she is wrestling again, just in, of course, a different company. Hasn't signed with anyone big yet. She's kind of just doing some indie stuff. But along with that, Braun Strowman was another big one. That sucks, but also his was more so for his health. So, and I just want him to be happy, and he's got his own like show now where he's eating a ton of food and he's living the good life. So that one doesn't hurt me as bad as Dakota Kai, who I actually thought was just starting to catch her groove in the WWE. So of course we're coming up to that point. So anyone can be let go. I mean, we've seen R-Truth be let go, and that was a real thing. Like R-Truth was actually let go. Inevitably brought back because of, fans and stuff like that. Karrion Kross and Scarlett were let go. That's another big one, but that wasn't during the spring cleaning. That was a little bit later. It's usually sometime around now. So within the next few weeks, we could be seeing some vital changes in the WWE with certain people being let go. But if it's me, and I don't mean this badly against any of these wrestlers, because mostly it's the booking problem, JC Mateo has showed up and done absolutely nothing. Tala Tonga has showed up and done absolutely nothing. Tonga Loa is just there. He's just there. I think Tama Tonga is fantastic. I think Solo Sikoa, obviously, if you guys have even listened to this podcast, I speak of him super highly. But the people I just named besides Solo and Tama literally just do nothing. They have no storyline. They have no beef with anybody else. There's nothing keeping me interested in this set of people. There's just not. And kind of the same goes with the MFTs. I love Eric Rowan. I would keep him because I think you could do something cool with him. Uncle Howdy, I like the tribute, but he's not Bray Wyatt. We'll never have another Bray Wyatt ever again, and it's just a fact. So I think instead of just like keeping this going and trying to keep his like legacy alive, I'd much rather just focus on enjoying what we had with Bray Wyatt instead of kind of just forcing us to look at this shadow of him instead. I don't love it. And I think Bo Dallas is an incredible mind. I mean, you see the matches he creates they're deeply thought out. So if he was in a creative situation over on SmackDown, which they need, I think it'd be a little bit better. I don't want him to get like released, but again, if you get rid of the MFTs and like this Wyatt Six feud, it's going to open up spots for other people. And another thing you can do, make another faction. Make another 4-person, 5-person faction. Which you could do. You could throw some random slop together, like, all those randoms like Matt Cardona and Apollo Crews, and maybe Johnny Gargano's in there, which I don't want him to be in there. But you could do something to make this feel a little bit authentic, but it's just been the same thing for 6 months. And I think we got to end it. R-Truth and Damian Priest are going to be comedy gold for many weeks. Sit back and enjoy. R-Truth, we get to see him in the ring hopefully every week, every other week-ish. Literally, he moves like he's 20. And the dude's like 54, I think, something like that. It's incredible. Him and Damian Priest, all of their backstage segments are going to be hilarious. Because Priest is so dry and serious, and Truth is the exact opposite. So you get this really cool gel mix between the two that I'm really interested to see. So I just think that these two being a tag team works extremely well, and I'm kind of just excited for what they can put on for the next weeks to come. What are we doing with Jade Cargill is my next topic. I'm a little bit confused why we put together this great feud with Jordynne Grace. And then the second Michin is healthy, let's just feed Michin to Jade Cargill again. Why? Why does that even make any sense? Why is your champion still consistently just beating up young, up-and-coming talent that you make not look strong on a weekly basis? Why are you just beating them up every single week with your women's world champion? Jade is... I like Jade too, but she's got to lose this. I mean, there's no chance she retains at WrestleMania, in my opinion. I actually think every single world champion is switching hands. Is my guess at the moment, at least. So I don't know. I really don't even know I don't even know what to say. Just the SmackDown booking, like I've said time and time again, is horrible. So the Sami Zayn gimmick that he's doing right now, where he just like shows up and yells and gets mad at Cody and then just like beats up a bunch of water bottles. Don't really understand where we're going with that. I get that he's supposed to be frustrated that he's never won a title before. And he's like, Cody, you get all these opportunities and all this stuff, which like, yeah, but it's Cody Rhodes and you're Sami Zayn and you look homeless. So I don't fully 100% understand like where we're coming from with that storyline. It's kind of just like, cool, dude. You're upset that you haven't won a title. That's awesome. World title. But him just like showing up and getting mad and bitching, that's not a character. I don't understand what they're trying to do. I think it's annoying. Every time he shows up, he's going to probably show up in 2 days on SmackDown and he's going to complain and he's going to get mad at Cody, and I just don't know what they're doing with him, honestly. The Bella Twins are back on SmackDown. Just preaching to the choir. Does anyone care about the Bella Twins? No? Okay. Me neither. I do not care for the Bella Twins at all. It was cool that Brie showed up at the Royal Rumble. That was awesome. Brie Bella is sick. Nikki Bella, I don't like as much, if at all. But the Bella Twins, I grew up with them. That's cool. The Bella Twins should not be competing with the Irresistible Forces and Charlexa and like potentially the Judgment Day Girls and the Kabuki Warriors. Like that's not how this works. If you want to put them in a feud, don't make it for the tag titles. Put them in a like really hot feud with like the Judgment Day Girls, potentially. Not for the titles. It doesn't make any sense to me, and I know what they're doing. They are trying to set up the Bella Twins versus the Irresistible Forces at WrestleMania, because what's that going to do? It's going to draw money, because the WWE and TKO are incredibly greedy, and they are not selling tickets because the ticket prices are stupidly high. So they're trying to, again, like I've said in the past, they're trying to build everything up with star power instead of actually putting, thought into storylines going into WrestleMania, which is not the same as their counterpart brand, Raw. And Raw is doing a fantastic job of taking different storylines and being like, okay, let's start to mash these together. And whenever they're actually going to fall into place, it's going to be WrestleMania season, and that's going to be perfect for those matches. There's really only... Now, okay, I will say there are 2 matches on SmackDown that I'm excited for WrestleMania that I think, one, like, of course, it's obviously set in stone. The other one, they're kind of building. They're giving it some thought. With Jade and Rhea, it has basically just been, oh, I'm going to call you a bitch. Oh, like, it's not a story. There's no emotion there. Their promo segments against each other are so bland. I feel like with Liv and Stephanie Vaquer, they're actually like going at each other's throats a little bit. They're talking about like, oh, you grew up in like the Mudlands in Chile, which was a fire quote from Liv Morgan or whatever she said. She said something crazy like that. Um, and then it's like, and then Stephanie's firing back. It's like, you've been given everything. And it's like, at least it's like there's some realism there. With these two, no one cares. Literally nobody cares. So, like I said, like with the Bella Twins as well, why should we care about them versus the Irresistible Forces? I don't know. Granted, we do have some time till WrestleMania. We have about a month and some change. So maybe they build up just the greatest story I've ever seen. But if I know SmackDown, I know they won't do that. So, just my opinion. Danhausen curses The Miz, officially curses The Miz. I don't really have that much to say, but I love Danhausen's backstage stuff. We've seen him a few times this week, and I don't know how he could curse The Miz more, considering The Miz already loses every single match he's in, but it's a storyline. It's a storyline from SmackDown, and I'm fine with it. So, good job, I guess, or something. We get this segment between Jelly Roll and The Miz on Miz TV, which everything always ends up swimmingly for The Miz on Miz TV, like we've seen in the past, always. And so, Jelly Roll and The Miz are going back and forth. Whose music hits? Kit Wilson, which I was hype. Because potentially it could be setting something up for WrestleMania, which is kind of what I was making reference to earlier. Kit Wilson comes out, and we get another banger line from Wade Barrett. He says, "Yes, boys," which is obviously a reference to Pretty Deadly. That was their old entrance, like their entrance cue, I guess, to start up their song. And he goes, "No, yes, they, them," which I thought was really funny. I thought it was, however way you wanted to take that, I just thought it was a pretty clever thing, considering Kit Wilson's whole thing is, being a little bit like being woke, pushing for like feminism and all this stuff. So I thought it was a fire banger line. And then Kit Wilson steps in and he's talking about well, Jelly Roll, you weren't happy with your body. You weren't this, you weren't that. And he calls Jelly Roll fat phobic because he lost all the weight. I thought this was so damn funny. And the thing is these are the kind of things that gain traction. He doesn't say this and people are like, "Oh, that's hilarious," and then they just forget about it. People in the wrestling community see like Kit Wilson calling Jelly Roll fat phobic. That's funny. That's a good jab at someone. Again, Jade Cargill and Rhea Ripley, not saying it's either of their fault. Whoever's making their scripts, or if that's just kind of what they've been given, they need to take notes from Kit Wilson, a dude who literally hasn't won a match in, I couldn't tell you how long. He randomly won on main event against Apollo Crews, but I just thought it was such a funny segment. And along with that, The Miz gets dropped by Jelly Roll, and I wonder who the fourth is, because right now I'm looking at The Miz and Kit Wilson teaming up. Who would we see match up with Jelly Roll to help him out at WrestleMania? Who is going to be his partner? That's the real question. But like some ideas that I think would fit well, I've heard people online say it's going to be Royce Keys. In my opinion, Royce Keys just doesn't really fit that vibe. This is going to be more of a comedic match. It's going to be more based on like, it's a celebrity match. Celebrity matches, they hit a lot. Like, they're fantastic. And Jelly Roll the last time in SummerSlam did great. He did great. Bad Bunny, fantastic. Logan Paul, fantastic. Even Johnny Knoxville did a great job against Sami Zayn. But celebrity matches just roll a little bit differently. And I think if it's something like this where you have the comedy of Miz and you have the comedy of Kit Wilson and you have Jelly Roll being the one, and it's like, well, it's Jelly Roll. It's not like a serious guy. So I feel like pairing him with someone like Royce Keys just doesn't really work because he's a very serious kind of character to me. I think Matt Cardona fits in very well. He's already been beefing with Kit Wilson like we've seen numerous times on SmackDown. And along with that, Jelly Roll and Matt Cardona actually seem to maybe have some kind of vibe that they could pick up together. That's just my opinion. I think Matt is also experienced enough to where he can like help Jelly Roll through the match being a tag partner. And on the other side, you have Kit Wilson, who is younger. He's a younger talent, but he's still fantastic and could definitely help Jelly Roll. Along with that, you have arguably the best wrestler in the company, The Miz, right there. And I think if The Miz puts it together and all four of those guys just have like brilliant minds, I think, whenever it comes to wrestling, especially like, this is going to sound crazy, but especially Jelly Roll. Jelly Roll's a fan. He's an outsider looking in a little bit. That gives more to play around with ideas wise. So I feel like if you had Matt Cardona, The Miz, Kit Wilson, and Jelly Roll all firing on the same match, I think we could get something really special out of this. So I hope this is a WrestleMania match, which sounds crazy because most people are going to be like, oh, freaking celebrity again. Oh, Jelly Roll. And whoosh. And I'm just like, want to punch every single one of you because everybody's an idiot online, which I've expressed so many times. But next Friday, Jelly Roll's going to be back. So I guess this Friday, it's going to be fire. I think they're going to build up something and it's going to be really good. So I'm hoping they make the right choice and they pick someone not serious. Like another person that would fit in well here, Danhausen. Danhausen would fit in great as well. So I kind of just want to see how this plays out, but I am excited for the Jelly Roll, Kit Wilson, and Miz storyline. Are they setting up Drew versus Jacob? Hopefully in a TLC or a steel cage, something of that sort. That's what I'm hoping. So the thing here is like, we've seen like the Drew versus Jacob normally, kind of. We've seen the beef. But now that Jacob has cost Drew McIntyre the championship and they're really starting to kick up this feud, you got a month left to WrestleMania. And these two are experienced enough, and I think the SmackDown writers are good enough to see this and be like, this shouldn't be a normal match. This needs to be a TLC, Hell in a Cell. I think TLC would be best, in my opinion. For these two, maybe like a Scottish brawl or something like that. Like, I don't know what you'd call it. You know how we had the Australian street fight? What if we got the Scottish street fight? You know, something of that nature. That's what I think this feud is going to end up doing. And between these two, you have an absolute monster in both men. And they're just going to put on a banger for us at WrestleMania. Trick Willie and Jacob Fatu put on an absolute banger match. And then Drew, of course, gets involved after saying he quit SmackDown earlier on in the night, which we all know he didn't quit. We all knew he was going to come kick Jacob. That's just how it works. But since he got involved, I think it further pushes that narrative of TLC cage match kind of match at WrestleMania. Even maybe Trick Williams could get involved here, like three-way, like no holds barred kind of thing. Maybe even if they did like an I Quit match between like Jacob and Drew, that would also be perfectly fine. Also, quick shout out. This is like really random. The I Quit lines that they made on WWE 2K26 that some of the people did are hilarious. Rhea Ripley's are like super serious, and it's like Rhea, do you quit? And she goes, no, get away from me, and she's like actually voice acting. And then you have Dominic Mysterio who literally, like, I'm not kidding, this is the exact tone he does it. Dominic, do you quit? No, I won't quit. No, I don't quit. No. And then whenever he quits, he goes, oh, dude, I quit. You guys seriously need to go look it up. It's very funny. It's very stupid. but it's very Dominic like, and Liv Morgan does it as well. She's like, "Oh no, I'm not quitting." And it's just things like that. So I actually want to go through all the I quit voice lines and see who took them seriously and who didn't, because obviously Dominic and Liv did not. It literally sounds like Dom is in the bathroom taking a crap and was sent a text just like, "Hey, send us a voice memo of you saying I quit and I don't quit." That's literally what it sounds like. So if you ever see that online, just look out for that, because it's quite funny. Randy Orton turns heel on Cody Rhodes, and this was fantastic. This is what SmackDown needed. This is what you needed. You needed emotion. This is what Raw's been doing the past year that has been kicking SmackDown's ass. They're throwing in like little personal attacks. You're throwing in emotion, like I just said, and it is just something that takes that like middle of the road feud to another level. If they went into WrestleMania just like, "Oh, shucks, we're best friends, but we got to fight. That's what we do." That would have sucked. It would have sucked. And we've seen it time and time again where it's just like, yeah, we'll just throw this main event together because we can. And look, it's Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton. It's going to be fire. Everybody loves both of them. Now you're giving it some depth. You're turning Randy Orton heel, who everybody loves. You got Cody Rhodes, who's like still your baby face, still your corporate golden boy, which is fine. I don't think you turn him quite yet. There's a lot of people online that were like, "Oh, it should have been Cody that turned." Not yet. It's like Real Steel. You know, Adam's getting pummeled down in the corner. And he's sitting there just going, "Not yet, Adam. Not yet, Adam." That's the kind of thing this is, because the more, like, you got to hit him where people don't expect it. If they keep thinking like, "Oh, Cody's turning heel now. Oh, he's going to do it now." Eventually they're just like, "Oh, it's never going to happen." That's whenever you get them. That's whenever you have the audience right there. So them waiting to turn Cody heel, completely fine with me. But Randy Orton's heel turn has me interested. Because originally I was like, okay, it's like two of the best in the company. I think Randy Orton's the greatest of all time. Sick match, cool, but like make me interested. And this got me interested. I want this level of hate that Randy brought in just one segment. Coming out, bloodying Cody Rhodes. It was just fantastic. And him coming back with the steel chair and hitting his like head into the steel like encasing that he was in was awesome. It looked so brutal. Yeah, I just thought the segment was fantastic. And I also put down here, he's listening to the voices. He's listening to the voices in his head, and I think Karrion Kross, sorry, I think Aleister Black is potentially finally getting to him to to some degree. Maybe they could. I don't think they're really gonna mess with that. Maybe Aleister's like will be like, "Oh, well, you see what I did to Randy, I can do the same thing to you, Sami Zayn," because they're kind of doing a thing as well. So awesome heel turn. Listen to the voices. Beat Cody for title 15. I would love it. Going over to AAA, the Rey de Reyes was this weekend, and the matches on there were fantastic, but I'm just going to focus on the Rey de Reyes tournament final and the final between Dominic and Hijo del Vikingo. Bravo and Rayo Americano handcuff the original El Grande, and it leads to the new El Grande picking up the win in the Rey de Reyes tournament. And what does that mean for Dominic versus El Grande? Because if you win that Reyes de Reyes, you are now the number one contender and you are offered a title match. So, and they have been friends. They have, worked together numerous times, and they haven't really officially like cut it off. Like, oh, these two aren't like friends anymore. They're going to have to try and like turn one of them, which it's going to be Dominic, because El Grande Americano is so over in AAA and definitely deserves the title in my opinion. So, but just going back to the Reyes de Reyes, oh my gosh, I keep messing it up. Reyes de Reyes tournament. I thought the way El Grande, the new Grande, wins this was awesome. He obviously gets taken out by the original And the only way they beat him is by actually using your two goons, Ryo and Bravo, by handcuffing him to, like, he gets handcuffed like all the way up in the cheap seats, like up high, and they handcuff him to a post. I just thought it was fantastic. And then, you get Grande to use the plate, and he ends up sneaking a win against I think he pinned Santos Escobar is who he pinned, who, by the way, I'm just gonna throw this out there, looked not great in that match. It looked like he was just no-selling everybody. It looked very odd, but the match itself was fantastic. Then you got the main event. AAA Championship is retained by Dirty Dominic Mysterio. And guess what? Looks like curses don't cross the border, because Dominic was cursed, lost his IC title. But guess what? Can't lose the AAA Mega Championship. They're over there in Mexico. So Danhausen's curse has not crossed the border, apparently. So I was pretty hype. The match was fantastic. You had Omos get involved. It was like a TLC. It wasn't really a TLC. I think it was just a no disqualification. So they were using kendo sticks and chairs, and they were just using everything. And it was such a fantastic match. And those are both two dudes that can go in the ring, whether you people on the internet like it or not. So people actually really hate Hijo del Vikingo, which I think is weird, but also I get it. I get why people down in Mexico hate him, but Dominic picks up the win, leading to Grande versus Dom, and I think Grande is going to take it from him at the next PLE. So, moving over to Raw, and Raw this week was spectacular. First, we kicked it off with Seth Rollins showing up again with a whole bunch of his hooded men, which again is like a Triple H wet dream. And the promo was fire. And of course, then you get Paul Heyman that comes out. He's yelling at Seth. And who comes out? The Beast Incarnate. Brock Lesnar shows up, which I freaked out. I knew he was going to be there. I didn't think he'd be there for Seth. And he just starts suplexing just every single masked dude. I thought it was so awesome. It was such a great way to start off Raw. And then we're all sitting there, and the lights go down whenever he's getting ready to squash Seth, because Seth, is still hurt. And Seth's standing there in the ring, lights go down, and Oba Femi's music hits. I said this last week. I want Oba versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. This is what I was wanting, and this was so perfectly set up. I don't know if Oba Femi's like on Seth's side necessarily. I don't know if Seth maybe like recruited Oba to face him. I really don't know how that aspect is working. Potentially Seth was like, okay, Oba, you take care of my Brock problem while I take care of the Vision, potentially, is maybe what he's going to be focusing on. So, I mean, the opening to Raw this week was just incredible. If you watched it, you understand what I'm talking about. But it's also official. Officially, we are getting Oba Femi versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, which, hallelujah, that is fantastic. El Grande Americano versus the OG El Grande Americano was fantastic. I thought the finish was so clever by having, the plate is in the mask and OG jumps off the top rope and headbutts his head, and New El Grande is laying down on the ground, so it knocks him out. He rolls over and, gets the pin, so the New El Grande ends up picking up the victory. But I don't think this feud's done yet. It's absolutely not done yet, because this needs to happen at WrestleMania, and this better not get thrown off the card. Again, this is another match that Raw has made that I care about. This is like long-term storytelling. I think it'd be so stupid to have all this crazy stuff happen in this El Grande Americano storyline just for you to be like, yeah, let's just put it on some random Raw and that'll be it. Don't think that's going to be the case. I think they're going to keep this going. Think we're going to get mask versus mask at WrestleMania, which everybody knows is like probably their plan. But I hope they don't do the WWE thing where they're like, Man, the fans would really want this. Let's just not do that. They're kind of like Ubisoft. If you play or watch Rainbow Six Siege, you'll know what I'm talking about. But kind of the same thing. I hope we get mask versus mask. It would be sick. AJ Lee versus Bailey. Um, Good match. AJ obviously retains. I would think she's gonna try to get as many like title defenses under her belt before she loses it to Becky again. But I mean, she ends up getting attacked by Becky later on the night. So cool that she got a victory, but inevitably this is just leading towards Becky Lynch at Mania, which is another match that, guess what, we actually care about because we're building up the characters and we're building up the belt, and everybody cares about the story because it's AJ Lee and Becky Lynch, which is kind of star power, which is not even kind of. This is definitely star power heavy, but people care about it, and it's actually a storyline. Take note, SmackDown. But speaking of Bailey, what are my 3 least favorite finishers on the current roster? I do have an honorable mention. Didn't quite make the list, but it is pretty horrible. Angel Garza's wing clipper finisher. You probably don't even know what it is because, he's never on TV. But my goodness, what a horrible finisher. He literally just like grabs the people like by their arms and like sits down. Doesn't even like it doesn't even look like a finisher. It looks horrible. So that's definitely one. The next one, which I hate to put her on here, Kiana James, the 401k. It's like a sling blade mixed with a little Jimmy, but it's not even that she looks bad doing it. It's that just the move, it just doesn't look like a good finisher. It doesn't, like, if it were to happen in a match, I'd be like, "Oh, cool." Like, "Oh, that's a move that she does." Maybe like that's it. It doesn't look like a finisher to me. I would love for her to get a different one, switch it up to some degree. But the 401k is not it. Number 2, the natural selection. I hate, hate this finishing move. The only reason that it's not number 1 is it can kind of be hit out of nowhere. Kind of. Can kind of be hit out of nowhere. She's literally just front flipping and like kind of doing like a overhead DDT, or like kind of like an RKO if you're like this far off the ground. Like, it is stupid. The natural selection is a terrible finisher. And is this stemming from me not being the biggest fan of Charlotte Flair? Maybe. Might be. But this doesn't look like a finisher to me. This looks like, I wouldn't even call it a signature move. It looks like something someone randomly was just like, "Okay, I'm going to flip over," and you just like fall to the mat real quick. I mean, they're literally like, they're laying on the ground like this, like hunched over, and they're this far from the ground, literally. So it's like that impact would not be good enough to be a finisher. So I hate that one. And number 1, I mean, it's got to be the Rose Plant. It's got to be. I've talked about this before. It's horrible. It's just terrible. I think I'm going to redo my Raw finisher tier list over on my YouTube, so be sure to watch out for that. I'm currently actually in the middle of finishing a video series. Well, not a series. I'm just releasing the first episode, but I'm giving each Raw competitor a Pokemon companion. So be sure to watch out for that. Maybe chuck on the notifications on the YouTube. But the Rose Plant is just terrible. The setup takes too long. Again, they are this far. They're this far from the ground. Like, they're barely off the ground. She's got to like hook the leg and the arm, and then she just like falls forward. It's terrible. It's all the problems I have with the natural selection, but the setup takes longer. And also, Bailey has, like, we've seen her use the elbow drop as her finisher, and we've seen her use the Bailey to belly before. So just go to one of those or find a different one, because the Rose Plant is just not it for me. We got Dragon Lee versus Penta, and I think Dragon Lee's jump from inside the ring to the outside table and doing like a flip in air is one of the craziest consistent moves in all of wrestling. He does it almost every single week, and it looks incredible. So their match was just absolutely insane. Um I personally see Dragon Lee winning the IC title at some point. Don't know if it's going to be this year, but I think potentially next year, sometime in the near future, Dragon Lee's going to win the IC title. Sadly, I don't know if his ceiling's going to be much higher than that, but this was a banger match, and I feel like Dragon Lee is always out there performing to the best of his abilities. And of course, we know Penta. We love Penta. He's fantastic. So, great match. And also, the Mexican Destroyer Cell that Dragon Lee did, it literally looked like he had his career on the line selling that. He gets hit, ends up back on his feet, and he like flies into the rope and then like tumbles back forward off hitting the rope. It looked crazy. These two's chemistry in the ring is just, I mean, it's just insane. Following that, we ended up getting a segment where Michael Cole was going to talk to Randy Orton to some extent, and it just didn't happen because Randy was on the phone with someone. I don't know who he's on the phone with. I wonder how that's going to play into the storyline between him and Cody. But if I have any guesses, I don't. I don't have any guesses on who he could have been on the phone with. And then he, of course, rejects Michael Cole's interview. Kind of just pushing towards that heel persona that he's putting on. So I just thought it was just kind of whatever. It was just there. I just wonder who he's on the phone with. The Danhausen is New Day segment was so hilarious. But the real question is, who got cursed? Was it Grayson Waller? Was it Kofi Kingston? Because Kofi dragged Grayson in front of him, so it looks like it could have been him, but Grayson was like, nah, he pointed over my shoulder at you, Kofi. So I wonder how they're going to play this out, if it's going to be like they're both like wrestling in ring and they both think they're cursed, or like we see like the curse happen, quote unquote, to one of them. So I think it's kind of funny. But then he was like, he was like swaying his hips and he's like, very nice, very evil, and doing like the New Day thing. So I thought it was really funny. And every backstage segment he's been in has just been really great. So then in another backstage segment, this is whenever Lyra and Bayley are talking, and I hate their backstage segments. I hate them. They're both great in the ring, but Lord, this Lyra Valkyria needs some mic work. She just kind of yells during her promos, and it is not working for me. It's like fantastic in the ring, just needs some mic work that can come with time. But every single segment she has with Bayley, she's just like screaming at her and is like, we're gonna be best friends and champions at WrestleMania, and she's just like screaming at her, and I don't get it. I don't get it at all. So if we could stop doing that, that would be sick. But I wasn't even paying attention to that because Austin Theory was talking to Maxine Dupree in the background. The Vision walked by and he goes and checks up on her. Here's the thing I'll say that the WWE does quite well. Extremely well, actually. The tidbits they put in the back of certain backstage promos is important. Like whenever the MFTs started to show up like more, you would see them consistently in the background, like stalking whoever they were going after. The same with the Wyatt Six. Another one like, which I've brought him up a few different times, but like obviously we know that the new El Grande is not Ludwig Kaiser, but let's just go out on a limb here and say it is, if you want to live into the fantasy. Before we saw the new El Grande, you actually saw Ludwig Kaiser in the background of not Alpha Academy, of the Creed brothers and Ivy Nile, American Made. You saw him in the background of a backstage promo there, and now he's getting accusations that he's the new Grande Americano. Like, these are the things that you got to look out for in the background. So I think that this isn't an accident, right? I wonder, like, I wonder if they're like thinking about like the LA Knight thing, because LA Knight and Maxine Dupree had some history, because technically they're related by canon. By canon, they're related. So I wonder if the beef between LA and the Vision, if they could get Maxine to turn on LA Knight potentially, or something like that. I don't think a lot of people would fully understand it, but if you have just a little bit of wrestling knowledge, and you would know that they're related. So other than that, like it's not like she's gonna join the Vision. Like maybe she uses the brass knuckles against Natty or something of that sort. I really don't know where they're going with this, but they didn't do this by accident. This isn't just a random thing. So next Monday, we are getting the Usos versus the Vision for the titles. Here's my prediction. The Usos are going to win. Shocker, the Vision never wins anything. I would love for the Vision to win the tag titles, but I don't see it happening. The Usos kind of just won them, kind of. I think it'd be great for the Vision to win. I hope they win, but I don't think they're going to take them off the Usos quite yet. Roman Reigns calling Punk out for saying the same BS every single week was fire. Quote he says was, "Yeah, a part-timer, take notes from your wife." Thought this was very clever. This week was a little bit underwhelming in comparison to the weeks we've been getting. It wasn't quite as deeply cut, but again, you don't need to go out and say, "Bro, I'm happy your father died," or "Oh yeah, I'm happy your dog is dead." Like, you don't need to say that every single week. It's like eventually it would kind of just get provocative. That's probably not the right word. It'd get too repetitive. And like, so this doesn't live up to that same like emotional depth and like emotional like personal attack. This was kind of just more like, this was kind of just like a filler episode for these two. And then CM Punk just gets mad because he called him old, because Roman called him old, and that's what set him off. So I think Roman's gonna win at Mania. That's just what I think. It's gonna be fantastic, but I'm looking forward to this feud. To continue growing throughout the next couple weeks leading up to WrestleMania, because I think it's gonna get good. A commenter says, "Hey, at ZigZag06, I've heard you talk about Ludwig Kaiser quite frequently and the new El Grande Americano. Do you prefer Ludwig or El Grande more overall?" Well, I hope you're not implying that they're the same person, because obviously they're not. But if I am going to go off that extreme, wild scenario, this one's really tough for me. Whenever I first started watching again back in like early 2024, Ludwig, it was like Dominic, LA Knight, and Ludwig Kaiser were the first three that I latched onto, like people that I had never seen before. I actually had never known of Dominic Mysterio, but like I'd seen the match before, but like I didn't make that connection until a little bit later. So he was the like first one I really liked, but I didn't even know he had any correlation. I knew him as Dirty Dom for like the first like 1 or 2 weeks I started watching. So I really liked him. LA Knight is LA Knight. He's super entertaining. I liked I thought he walked around with tons of swagger. But other than that, I saw Ludwig Kaiser, and I was like, for some reason, I really like this guy. I really like the way he like struts around like a peacock, and he's this D-bag, and his moveset is so fantastic. But do I prefer Ludwig or El Grande more? Here's the problem with this. If you looked at me right now and said, "Would you rather have Ludwig Kaiser or El Grande Americano?" I would say Ludwig Kaiser. But the thing is El Grande is just getting this amazing push, which he deserves. He works his tail off. So if you could get a Ludwig Kaiser with the push that El Grande Americano is getting and the opportunities that he's giving, yeah. But I more want Marcel to be successful, if anything. So it's kind of hard for me to like choose between the two, because I like Ludwig Kaiser more, as much as I love El Grande Americano. Like he's in my top 5 favorites, but Ludwig is still higher than him. He was just somebody that I saw working, and I was like, this dude's like, he's like a douchebag that has a mean streak a little bit. I mean, he has that video of him just absolutely wrecking Giovanni Vinci. And once he kind of got away from Gunther, I like out of his shadow basically, and he was kind of becoming a single star and potentially was going to go after the Intercontinental Championship, and he did. And he had some fantastic matches with Braun Breaker and Sheamus and Penta, and these two, he just cooked. And it's just not the same for me, because Marcel isn't coming out and cutting Ludwig Kaiser promos. That was like half the best part, is he'd come out and just talk a whole bunch of crap and be like, I'm better than you, and he'd peacock around the ring, and then he'd hit you with like a crazy kick to the face, which he has been implementing more. His signature, just like it's not the punt kick, but it's like a big old soccer kick to the chest. But it sucks because he wasn't pushed as Ludwig, but he's getting super over as El Grande. And the thing is I wonder, like, I don't want him to be stuck as El Grande Americano for the rest of his career. I think eventually, like, the hype will die down, but it's tough because he's over in Mexico, and I want him to stay over in Mexico. So I wonder if they can just do a thing where he's El Grande Americano on AAA, but he's Ludwig Kaiser on Raw or something like that. I don't know. That's actually kind of a tough question. I appreciate you for commenting, though. If you guys have other comments that you want me to respond to, any questions you want me to answer, anything you want me to touch back up on, please let me know in the comments down below. This is the end of the Zigzag with Corbin Elliott. This has just been a crazy week in wrestling. I'm excited for WWE and WrestleMania to come around the corner. I'm excited for what's coming up next. If you guys can do me a favor, please like and subscribe down below. If you're not already subscribed to this podcast on Apple Music or Spotify, please consider following. We have a lot of fun around here. So be watching out for that new video, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.